All right, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to do the review for the trading week of last week, and we're just going to discuss the trades that existed in the market, and also, um, you know, how the trading week actually played out with the analysis that was posted at the beginning of the week. So lots to talk about. So before we begin, let's just pray. God, we thank you and we praise you for your goodness. We thank you for another trading week that has passed, a successful week. We ask that you will just continue to be with us as we review. With anyone watching this video, may it be instrumental in helping them to improve on their process. We thank you and we love you. Amen. All right, guys. So first to begin, this is going to just be, like I said, review based on what we started, how we started, and also how the trades played out in relation to what was posted. Now, at the beginning of the week, this is where we started, right here. Before any of these candles were filled in, this is where we started. This was the weekly boundary, okay? Now, you notice what happened. The lower high that was started on Friday on the 2 hour continued, and it finished roundabout here at between 10 and 11, depending on the time frame that you're looking for. So this was a good retracement sell for those of you who actually took the retracement sell on Friday. As I mentioned to you, my primary focus is not on the sells. The sells are the temporary moves. They're only a temporary retracement to create the next higher low, which is exactly what we saw right here. Okay. Now, notice that once the sell was completed right here on Monday, then the buy actually started right into Tuesday. So if you got in this buy on Monday, which you should have, because it would have been coinciding with the largest higher low, you'd have seen that this price actually moved to a higher high on the 2 hour time frame. All right. So this was actually a very nice move right here. Okay. Very nice move. So we got the first move starting from here on Monday, based on this higher low, all the way up until Tuesday at 9 a.m. Right. Roundabout right when the market opened, about 9:30. This was actually the high of the day. Okay. All right. Now, the other thing that I mentioned to you last week was that the market, because it was highly consolidating, it was consolidating between the last high and the last low. So the last low actually came from the previous week, prior to, well, 2 weeks ago. Let's put it like that. The largest low actually came from 2 weeks ago, and then it created the all-time high last week, which was the previous week before last week. Okay. All right. So bear with me. So 3 weeks ago. So here we go. Counting 1, 2, and 3. All right. This is where the low started from. This is where the all-time high was created. Okay. So this was the last high and the last low. Now, if you notice what happens, and I mentioned last week, those of you who follow me on Instagram and TikTok will notice that I stressed the fact that price was consolidating between the last high and the last low. And clearly you see that's what happened here this week. It was a consolidated week. However, this type of consolidation is what I refer to as W.O.C, which is wide open consolidation. And how we get to wide open consolidations when the market actually consolidates more on some of your larger time frames, like for example on your 1 hour, your 2 hour, your 3 hour, and your 4 hour. All of those lower lower to medium hourly time frames. So as you know, on the hourly time frames, you have the 1 hour all the way up to the 23 hour. Okay. So the lower time frames are considered like the 1, the 2, and the 3 hours. The medium time frames are when you start getting up to like the 7 hour, the 8 hour, the 11 hour, so on and so forth. So you saw a lot of consolidation happening last week on the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4 hour. Okay. When you have consolidation on those time frames, it is so wide. Okay, it gives you quite a bit of range so that for those people who want to take retracement sells, they have so much room that they can both gain on the buys and the sells. That's why I refer to it as wide open consolidation range. Okay, so here we go. Here's one such fact. The lower high that was created on Friday, those of you who actually took that sell, those of you who monitor sells and everything, and knowing and understanding that they're only retracements, would have noticed that this would have been a nice sell from this lower high to this higher low. Not really interested in that because for me, it's consolidation. I really don't like trading consolidation like that. It's just too painful. It's just too long. It's just too frustrating and everything like that. Okay, I rather wait for price to actually get to the extreme points, your highs and your higher highs, your lows or your lower lows before taking my trades again. All right, so this was a nice retracement sell. However, because you're trading the trend and the trend is higher lows to higher highs, okay, you always want to make sure that you're taking your largest higher lows, okay, of the session. So largest higher low right here, okay, nice buy opportunity right into the following day. First easy trade of the week, okay. Now, those of you who are studying retracement and understanding what market structure is doing, that is why I keep stressing the fact that market structure is more important than fundamentals, okay? Fundamentals react during market structure, within market structure. So any fundamental, all these wicks right here, okay? News, the market opening, tweets, all of these things create all of these wicks, both at the top and at the bottom. That's actually news creating that volatility within market structure. So like I mentioned to you, news, fundamentals does not create market structure. It only reacts within market structure. So every news item that came out this week, every report that came out this week was within this range right here. Everything. Notice no new structure. Okay, everything is just consolidation within the previously made structure from that low to that high. All of this right here, all of this week. Okay, so what you saw happening here, price came up, it made that higher high. Okay, those who are taking the retracement sells, nice sell opportunity. Sold right from here. If you caught this move, it would have been a very nice move, all the way back down to the next low, which is now a higher low on a larger time frame. So if we block this section off here, so let's go here, we blocked off right to this low right, that it created right there, and we looked at a larger time frame. Okay, you'd see here low being created here on the 3 hour. Let's go up to one of the larger time frames. I think like the 7 hour. That was there. There was the 8 hour. There you go. That's a higher low on the 8 hour time frame. So as you go up further, you will understand that these lows and lower lows that you're seeing on your lower time frames are creating only higher lows on your larger time frame. So let me open up this so you can see more. So this is the 8 hour time frame. That's only a higher low that was created on by that low. But it was still a nice sell. As you notice, this one candle right here, once it came up here, it made that higher high on the 2 hour. On Tuesday, it created a nice sell opportunity all the way down to create the higher low on your 8 hour time frame. All right. All right. So let's move on with the other days. So here we go. So this was the two hour time frame. This was the higher low that was created. Now, another opportunity for you to actually take a buy from this higher low. Now, remember, I mentioned to you, once you take your largest higher low, in this case would have been like your 8 hour for those of you who actually have access to those time frames, your higher low is actually your entry point. Okay, when you take your higher lows, remember your ultimate destination is a higher high. However, there are times when you take the higher lows and the market is still consolidating because of the resistance that it's facing at the top of the zone. Okay, you will get only a lower high. Not to worry, because once you come in on your higher low and the price gets to a lower high, you will be 100% in profit right there. So you take your profits at the lower high point and then you wait. Okay, that's how you trade the consolidation, because remember, the zone is higher lows to higher high. Sorry, the range or the trend, I should say, is higher lows to higher highs. That's 100% correct. However, there are times that the market consolidates, and instead of giving you that higher high, you get only a lower high. That's still okay. You're still in profit. You take your profits and you wait. That's where patience comes in. That's where understanding of market structure comes in. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out to you is that at the beginning of the week, you'll notice that I gave you 3 zones. Okay? I gave you 3 zones at the beginning of the week. One, there is a retracement activation zone where, of course, if price broke this zone right here, then I know that we're in a major retracement, not a trend reversal, a major retracement where we are going to create those higher lows on your extremely larger time frames, like your daily, your weekly, and your monthly. Okay? This is this zone right here. Okay? Then I gave you a mid zone. Okay? This was the previous higher all-time high break zone. Okay? The previous all-time high break zone. Now, what that means is the last time when the price came up, okay, it broke through and it made an all-time high. Okay? So it broke this price right here, this line right here is the all-time high, the previous all-time high that held for a while. So it broke this here, and then it started making those higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs into the new break zone. So this zone right here is my previous all-time high break zone. All right, and I drew that zone right there for you guys, and I mentioned to you, once you saw price coming into these zones right here, once you saw price start dipping into these zones, it's an opportunity, right, for you to actually start buying the trend again, because price, excuse me, price is coming back down to actually retest the previous all-time high, because the previous all-time high is now going to form the next support that is going to pivot you into the next round of all-time highs, which brings me now to the third zone, which is the all-time high expansion zone. How I got this zone is the new all-time high that was formed. Okay. All right. That's the beginning of that zone. Okay. Price goes into this zone, it's now into all-time high expansion territory, which is now going to take me to my third guaranteed take profit of the year that I published from the first week of this year. Go back and check the history on the videos and my YouTube posts, and I'm sorry, on my Instagram and my TikTok posts, and you'll see that I've always maintained that there are going to be at least 3 major take profit levels for the year. We have actually successfully broke 2 of them for the year. The third one is actually here at this level at 55,729.3. That is now going to be when the price gets into this all-time high expansion zone, it's going to continue to actually break the third take profit level. All right. So going back to last week and looking at what the price did for last week, you'll see once we got here, notice that as soon as price started to touch this zone, it started to buy out of the zone. As soon as price touched this zone, it started to, that was the confidence that you needed to start taking those buys. Because look, all right, so the first touch of that zone, excuse me, the first touch of that zone would have been the low on Tuesday. All right, so you see right here, price came, it touched into that zone. Okay, it bought out, consolidated for a bit. Okay, but that's where patience comes in. You trust your analysis, you know, you're confident in your analysis, you know that the price is going to buy out of that zone. It did that. Notice it came up again on Wednesday, it gave you another lower high. Okay, this does not mean reversal. I keep saying that. That does not mean reversal. It just means that the market is consolidating. It means that the market is actually displaying volatility so that it can create the next round of higher lows within the zone so that eventually it will shoot towards your all-time high expansion zone. So here we go. Price came into the zone, it bought out. Lower high, not a take profit opportunity. Wait again for price to enter your zone. Okay? Those of you who are actually comfortable selling the retracement, nice sell opportunity right back into the zone. Okay? Now you're deeper into the zone. Guess what? It does not mean reversal. Although you're seeing a lower low right here, this is only on the 2-hour time frame. Always jump up to your major time frame. So let's look at the 8-hour again. All right, this is on Thursday. Let's look at the 8-hour time frame again. Where are we? 8-hour time frame on Thursday. Notice it pushed deeper. You look at a larger time frame like the 23-hour. This is actually when the 23-hour created its higher low last week. There we go, right into Wednesday, right here. Okay, higher low was created. So remember, you always want to go to your larger time frame to see truly what's happening on the markets. So here we go. Let's come back here. So price is here. You have another buy opportunity. Here we go. A lower high. This is going to be a lower high on your larger time frame because this high is actually lower than these previous lows. Okay. Does not mean reversal. The market is just consolidating. And you have to understand market structure in order to get this. So it's a take profit opportunity right here. Okay. Those of you who are comfortable with the sells, here you go. Another sell opportunity for you. Guess what? It's in the zone again. It's an opportunity for you to buy out of the zone. Okay. You bought out of the zone. Now you're in Friday. Notice nothing came on. So you're like, oh my God, do I still hold? Well, if you hold, okay, guess what? Price came back down. It retraced with you. Came right back down close to your entry of the previous day, you'd still be in profit, not to worry, because the price is going to go up at some point to give you at least a lower high. So not to worry. So that's why I mentioned to you last week in my post, there were lots of opportunities there for both buyers and retracement sellers. But in order for you to capitalize on these moves, you would have had to have a firm understanding of market structure and what the market is doing. If you sat down just trying to trade tweets and news and all the nonsense that goes on these financial shows and everything like that, you would have gotten caught, you'd have missed out on many moves, you'd have blown accounts and everything like that. Focus on learning market structure, understanding your levels so that you'll be able to be ahead of the news and you'll be able to be trading what the market actually gives you. All right. So again, these were the moves. Now, one thing I want to point out to you before closing out this video, I don't want to make it too long. If you're a person who actually lived on some of the smaller time frames, for example, like let's look at the half-hour time frame. Okay, there are so many more opportunities that you could have seen by these points. Notice if you're just looking at trading your higher lows, look, there's an opportunity right here. Higher low, lower high. That's a nice trade. Here's a lower low to a lower high. That's another trade right there. Here's another lower low to another lower high. Opportunity. There's a higher low all the way up to a high. Another opportunity. There's a low right here to a lower high. Another opportunity. There's a higher low to another high. Another opportunity. The point I'm making to you is there were so many opportunities last week for those people who actually traded the trend. There was just no excuse. So when I look at the charts and I see people complaining that market price action sucked and this market is manipulated and everything, nonsense. Okay, guys, stop listening to the news. Go and learn to trade market structure. Go and understand what market structure does, and you'll be in a much better position to take these moves as they come. So, in summary, market did exactly what we expected it to do. I gave you the zones. The zones were there. That was up to you whether or not you decided to take them. That's another story. That's up to you. But we saw here, market did exactly what we said it was going to do, which is buying from your largest higher lows. If you get the consolidation, which clearly last week the market was consolidating, you always take a profit on those lower highs, then wait for a next higher low to actually buy again. So there's no excuse why you couldn't have gotten at least 5 good trades last week. The problem is because you're listening and reacting to the news and everything like that, you become fearful, you become anxious, and you start doubting yourself and doubting proper analysis and doing foolishness. All right. So the next video that I'm going to be posting is how I see the markets actually shaping up for next week. It's going to be another exciting week. You know, but like I said, remember, I'm always 100% bullish on the US30, which means the market always buys from the largest higher low. Okay. In the event that you buy from your largest higher low and you only get a lower high, remember to take your profit and wait. Another higher low is guaranteed to come. That's all the US30 does. Higher lows to higher highs. But you have to be able to wait through the consolidation period so that when the resistance is broken, you would have already been accustomed to trading those trends, trading from your largest higher lows. That's a no-brainer for you to actually continue to the next all-time high. So guys, thank you again for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. We can grow this community together. Remember, I charge nothing. No one trades for me. I don't trade for anyone. I'm just sharing my views based on my understanding of market structure. You're free to use you know, any of these ideas and everything like that to develop your own strategy. But like I said, this for me is tried, tested, and proven. I don't need anybody to try and explain to me otherwise because I've seen it work 100% of the times. So just know, practice all the time, always review your trades, and always build on your mistakes so that you can grow into the future. So thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.